Alrighty, here we're going to be going over the science of progressive overload and why most people tend to do it wrong and how we can fix it. So, first off, why does progressive overload matter? Your muscles grow by adapting to an increasing stress. Your body is an adaptive system. Whatever stimulus you give it, it's going to adapt to. You drink a little bit today, you drink a little bit tomorrow, drink the same amount the day after. Over time, that won't do the same job. It's going to be the same thing when it comes to coming in the gym. You lift this weight today for X amount of reps, do the same thing tomorrow, the day after, the day after. The challenge will eventually decrease to the point you're not giving your muscles enough stimulus to grow, and therefore you will not be growing anymore. What we need to do is make sure we're progressing by some metric. That can be making sure we increase the weight on the bar, increase the amount of reps we're doing, improve your form, go a little bit deeper, maybe go a little bit slower on the eccentric, maybe make sure your concentric is a little bit more locked in and actually putting tension on the target muscle. It's more than just adding weight. The quality of your stimulus is going to be paramount to making sure you're able to make consistent adaptations. Past the first initial point of doing an exercise, where you're just still getting neurologically tuned into it, once you've gotten past that, it is really about making sure you stay locked in on the target muscle, as your progressions will slow. It's going to be reps here or there, 2.5s aside, maybe 5s, maybe even less. You might stall out for a workout or two, do the same thing. But as long as you're increasing over time, you're making sure you're getting a good stimulus to the target muscle, you will be growing. Just make sure that you are doing a little bit more than last time by some metric. Next off is going to be strength is not equitable size. We see plenty of powerlifters that can squat a fuck ton, but they tend to be pretty light, not that big. They might not have developed quads, they might have developed glutes, maybe developed lower back, but they are not all that big. Hypertrophy requires smart progressions. Just chasing load on the bar, doing doubles, triples, is not going to get you huge. It's not going to turn you into the next Ronnie Coleman. The goal is consistent adaptations, not just random overload. Don't go into the gym thinking, I'm going to add a fucking quarter on this or a plate today, unless it's something you did for a set of 20 and you're trying to go to a set of 10. If you did a set of 8, it's probably not a wise idea to add a plate on there. You're probably going to end up sacrificing your form, maybe cutting your range of motion a little bit short, maybe dive bombing the eccentric, and that's how we get hurt. The biggest thing is we want to minimize fatigue, especially on our joints, long term, to make sure we can, again, keep making consistent adaptations. So, why adding weight isn't the best option all the time? Form breakdown does not equal progression. Like I said before, coming on, adding quarters, plates isn't doing you much good. It's probably going to shorten your ability to progress in exercise. It's going to make you need to reset your weight, go back to a point where you actually had good form, and then restart from there. We can avoid a lot of that by just making sure we make smaller, more intelligent progressions. It's fun to come in the gym, have a lot of fucking spirit, go, you know what, I'm gonna get fucking stiff leg 6 plates. But if your form isn't good while doing that, it's not doing you much good in the grand scheme of trying to actually grow and get bigger as a bodybuilder. Fatigue management is key. Don't chase these PRs at all costs. I can think of plenty of times in my younger years of training going for, let's say, 1 or 2 more reps on a squat. Sure, might have gotten them, but maybe my back grounded, maybe, I dive bomb the eccentric, maybe my hips shoot out a lot more on the concentric, and I'm not using my quads nearly as much. That's all going to be taking stimulus off of the target muscle, my quads, just for the sake of chasing a PR or a slight increase in the gym. Sure, there might be times that is justifiable or it might be okay, but we shouldn't do this consistently. Long term, not sustainable. Gonna end up coming in the gym, fuck, my back hurts, fuck, my knees hurt, fuck, my hips are starting to hurt. We should make sure, again, smart progressions. Don't make these huge progressions trying to add quarters, plates, 5 reps at a time. If you can get that 1 rep, if you can get a little bit more weight, go for it. If you can get another rep after that, again, go for it. Just make sure you're keeping your form intact while doing that. Now, another thing we can look at is smaller muscle groups. Let's look at like side laterals, for example. Do you see guys doing laterals with the 60s? Terrible form. Do they tend to have big shoulders? No. But we can look at plenty of bodybuilders using 20s, 30s, 35s, 40s, etc., maybe even the 60s over time, that have very good form, that have big delts. The reason is they're actually putting tension on the muscle. You can use plenty of momentum, use other muscles to actually lift the weight up, but that's not doing us much good, especially for managing fatigue. You're just going to be more tired, fucking yourself up more for the same set, less stimulus on the muscle, more fatigue on your joints. It's not doing us much good. Maxing out, doing fucking doubles, triples. I mean, if you do 4 reps on a lateral, that shit's not helping you. Again, same thing. Why are you doing doubles and triples on a press? You're a bodybuilder. You're not trying to powerlift. You're not trying to post your shit on Instagram saying, oh, fuck, look at this. I did a double with this. It's not doing you much good. Yeah, I mean, that's how most of these dudes end up getting hurt. So let's look at different ways we can try to apply progressive overload. Increasing the weight. We want to make sure we do this with good form. Make sure you're not senselessly chasing progressions on the bar for the sake of appeasing the logbook. Increase your reps while maintaining control. Make sure that if you do progress and you do add reps, that your form still stays intact. Don't just be like, oh, fuck, I got 13 on my lateral last time. I got to get 14. But then you end up shrugging up with your shoulder near your ear and having terrible fucking form. You pretty much only have a trap pump from that set. Make sure your tempo stays intact as well. If you look at a video you took of, say, for example, a chest press, and you're like, ooh, I was dive bombing that on the way down, or I didn't go nearly as deep, or my concentric was pretty bad. I mean, I clearly wasn't using the target muscle. It looks like mostly triceps. Then we can definitely come into our next session and try to improve that. Again, improving execution, maybe having better internal and external cueing, feeling the muscle better can also have merit when it comes to applying a more robust stimulus to your muscle over time. So, all in all, make sure your form stays good. Make sure no matter what you do, the stimulus on the muscle is paramount to making sure we're making consistent adaptations and progressions. So, what can we do to make sure that this actually happens? First off, you can record your sets. You come in the gym and you take a video of a chest press in the first session you've done that exercise, and then 2 months later, you look at another video of the same exercise, and your form is completely different. You're not going nearly as deep. You're going way faster on the eccentric. But oh, I added a plate on it. Well, maybe you could have added a quarter and a 10 or a quarter, kept that same form, still had a very good stimulus on your chest, and your shoulders wouldn't be hurting every time you came into the gym. Keep this in mind for when you are doing anything. It's going to make sure you have a lot more longevity actually training hard, and you're not going to be one of those dudes when you're 60 years old saying, oh, fuck, I used to do this, but I can't anymore. My shoulder hurts. I think everyone knows a couple of those dudes. So, volume versus intensity. Why? Personally, I like to keep intensity stagnant. So, if we think of your volume, intensity, and frequency as all sort of sliding levers, I prefer to keep the intensity lever kept very high. Especially for myself, I just like training hard personally. I've tried training with RIR. I got into training and it was sort of an outlet for me. I fucking love training hard. Now, if going to failure, going to 1 or 0 RIR, you're constantly getting hurt, you might want to look into training 2 or 3 reps in reserve. It might be a little bit better for you. Again, with all this, you want to make sure you find the training style that works best for you, that you can progress consistently. The bottom line is you want to make sure you're doing a little bit more over time. So for me, I try to keep my intensity pretty stagnant. If you are someone that tends to get injured very easily, and is training to failure a lot, ends up fucking up your joints, then you might want to consider looking at something like RP's training style, where they increase the RIR over the training block, getting closer and closer in proximity to failure, and increasing volume. Again, all this works as long as you make sure you're progressing by some metric over time. So, then we get to volume and frequency. So when it comes to volume, we want to make sure we're checking a couple boxes before we look at increasing or decreasing volume. First off, are you progressing in the gym? Are you getting stronger? Do you look like you're growing in your check-in pictures that you're taking? You're checking these boxes? Good. Are you recovered on time coming into your next session? Yeah? Okay, good. You recovered extremely early coming on in your next session? Okay, good. So that might be a time we could look at considering increasing our volume. Are you sore as fuck leading into your session? We probably don't want to increase our volume then. Are you in a steep deficit? You're sore as fuck coming into every session. Okay, we might want to actually decrease our volume. Are you getting weaker? Definitely decrease your volume. That's pretty much the gist of how I look at making volume additions or reductions. Use your logbook, your biofeedback in terms of how fatigued are you feeling in and out of the gym. How is your strength holding? How is your physique looking if you're in a prep or if you're cutting, etc. You know, your body will give you feedback when it comes to pretty much everything you do. As long as you listen, you'll end up getting a pretty good handle on what you should do. Just make sure if you're cutting, you're at least maintaining strength. At the very end, especially with certain exercises like pressing, you do tend to lose a little bit of strength just from the fact your leverages get worse. As long as you're able to hold on to a majority of your strength, especially in the tail end of a diet, not intentionally reducing output, you'll end up holding on to the majority of your muscle. Ooh. Then frequency. So this is going to scale with volume as well. If you increase your frequency a lot, so you hit a muscle 4 times a week, then the volume per session is going to be lower. It might be higher than if you were to put it in 1 session per week. Let's take chest, for example. You do 14 all-out sets of chest in 1 session, you're going to be fucked up. Okay, now let's say you spread that across 2 or 3 sessions. Well, you're not going to be nearly as fucked up, and you might be able to be recovered on time for that next session to have a good stimulus, probably adequate to cause adaptation, to spread out more evenly across the week. So you would most likely cause more adaptations. Um, in my opinion, frequency isn't going to be the make or break that a lot of people think it will be. It definitely does have some merit and it can help increasing the frequency on weaker muscle groups. But first, before we do that, we want to make sure we're getting a good stimulus from our exercises. Our exercise selection is dialed in, our execution is dialed in, and that we're checking all of our boxes as far as progressions. Then, if your volume is adequate, you're making sure you're recovered on time, if not barely on time, coming in your next session, then that might be a good time to potentially look at increasing your frequency if that muscle is not growing at a pace you want. You could also look at decreasing the volume on certain stronger muscle groups if you got to the point that you're pretty advanced and you want to specialize. So, again, progress is the bottom line here. We want to make sure we're progressing by some metric. If you're cutting, that might be a little bit harder to get away with. Make sure you're at least maintaining. If you can come away with some progressions, do it by all means. Just make sure that when it comes to the intensity, you're not going fucking apeshit, ballistic, crazy, chasing the logbook and getting yourself hurt. These progressions won't be linear. It's going to take time. Just make sure you keep showing up and keep hammering at it. So, alrighty. Final thoughts. Oh, this just goes now. Alrighty. Train smart, not just hard. In any pursuit in life, we want to make sure we have a good balance of both. Just doing straight up hard work with no thought put into it is typically going to cause most people to burn out. Plus, any pursuit, you typically just want to tend to be very efficient. It's going to make sure you get the most out of your time and progress, most likely even a little bit faster. Progressive overload is not ego lifting. Prioritize your form, recovery, and execution. Track your progressions in the gym. Make sure you're getting a little bit stronger or adding a little bit more reps on that same weight or improving your form. Just make sure that the stimulus you're providing to your muscles is increasing over time. Be patient. Growing muscle is a very slow process, especially as you advance more and more. You're probably looking at, if you're on PEDs, maybe 5-10 pounds of muscle in a year. If you're natural, it's probably going to slow to maybe 1-2 pounds, maybe half a pound. Just have the long game in mind and make sure you keep showing up, keep progressing, and checking your boxes as far as nutrition. Alrighty, thank you for listening in on my thoughts on how to do progressive overload properly. Please let me know any questions, concerns, or comments you have down below. Like and subscribe. I'm trying to get this channel going a little bit more. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.